Hi everyone, my name is Tricia with the City and County of Denver. In this video, I am going to go over how to add a property within Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Before you begin, make sure to download and review the benchmarking checklist for accurate energy efficiency targets. You'll need to gather all the building information listed in the checklist before adding your property in Portfolio Manager. You can find the checklist on the Energize Denver website under the Benchmarking Requirements section. For guidance on how to use it effectively, watch my video using the benchmarking checklist for accurate energy efficiency targets. Lastly, I want to point out that this step can take some time, so make sure to set aside about 20 minutes to finish it all in one sitting. In Portfolio Manager, you are not able to pause and save your work in the middle of this step, so you would have to start over if you can't finish. To begin, go to the Portfolio Manager login page, which can be found at portfoliomanager.energystar.gov/pm/login. Once you're here, you'll want to sign into your account. If you have not created an account, you'll want to watch my video titled How to Create an Account in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Once you log into this page, select Add a Property. The next page is going to ask you to select your property type. Follow these instructions for entering your building's property type. Go to the Property Type drop-down menu and select the type that best describes your building. If there is more than one property type in the building, select the largest property use type at the building. You will add additional property use types later on. Select 1. My property is a single building. Select Existing. And once this page is filled out, select Get Started. The next page will then ask for some basic information about your property, such as the property name, address, year built, gross floor area, and occupancy. As you can see, a number of fields are highlighted in blue. If you're unsure of what the field is specifically asking for, hover over the blue text and a more detailed definition will pop up explaining what the field is seeking. When you're entering the building's gross floor area, make sure this is the square footage for the entire building. Do not include any parking square footage for this value. I suggest visiting Details on what to include for additional details on what to include and exclude in your building's gross floor area. You can also check out gross floor area advice in the Energize Denver technical guidance in section 3.2. When determining the occupancy of your building, look at the percentage of your building's gross floor area that was occupied and/or operational during the previous year, the year you'll be submitting your next benchmarking report for. Occupancy in this sense is not a value of the number of people or employees in the building, it is a matter of how the building is used. For example, let's say you have a 10-story office building where all 10 floors are typically occupied, yet during this reporting year, only 9 of the floors were occupied. The percentage of occupancy would be 90%, assuming each floor is the same size. This value can be updated at any time and should be updated when the occupancy changes from year to year. The next section is the standard IDs. Here, use the drop-down menu to select Denver Building ID from the standard ID city/town. Then enter your unique building ID. This ID can be found on most of the physical mailers and/or emails you've received about this requirement or at lookup.energizedenver.org. When adding your ID, ensure there are no spaces and that you've entered a 4-digit number. If you entered a number longer than 4 digits, that number is not your Denver Building ID. If you're unsure of your ID or cannot locate it, you can skip this step for now and come back to it later. Watch my video titled How to Attach Your Energize Denver Building ID for further instructions on how to find and attach your building ID. Lastly, read through these statements and mark any that apply to your building. For parking, you'll want to consider how the parking for the property is metered. If your parking lot energy, such as lights, EV chargers, etc., is metered with the building's meters, then you need to select My property's energy consumption includes parking areas. This will prompt you to later specify more details about your parking use. If your parking lot energy is metered separately from your building's meters, then you won't make this selection and will not include a parking use type in Portfolio Manager. The next page is going to ask you some questions about how your property is used. As an example, I've selected an office building. but each property type has a unique set of fields, so do not be surprised if your fields look a bit different. Again, if you're unsure of what a specific field is asking for, just hover over the blue text to get a more detailed explanation. If you'd like more information about the field, select the text and you'll be taken to the Portfolio Manager glossary. When setting up your property, do not select Use a Default if you're unsure of the exact value for one of the use detail questions. Instead, check the Temporary Value checkbox as a reminder to update the value before submitting your benchmarking report. Accurate use details are essential to receive a correct energy efficiency target. When trying to determine the weekly operating hours of your building, think about the total number of hours during the week that the majority of workers are present. This is not the same thing as total operating hours. For example, if your building is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but the majority of workers are only in the building from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, your weekly operating hours should be 40, while total operating hours would be 60. Next, you'll need to determine the number of workers on the main shift. Similar to the weekly operating hours, this is not the same thing as the total number of workers in the building. This is only asking for the worker count present during the main shift. Thinking about the previous example, if you have 10 workers, but only 8 of them work during the main shift from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, your number of workers on the main shift is only 8, not 10. The rest of the fields here are pretty self-explanatory, so I will jump onto the parking use section. This section is just asking for the square footage details of the building's parking areas, whether the parking area is open, partially enclosed, or fully enclosed, and if there's any supplemental heating for the parking space. All of these fields are required to be filled out. If you originally selected that your property's energy consumption includes parking areas when you were adding your property to Portfolio Manager, but later realized that the parking is separately metered from your building, you can go ahead and either enter zeros for all parking information or delete the parking use type entirely. Lastly, I want to point out that this current as of column is automatically defaulted to January 1st of the year the building was built. Do not change that date. It is helpful to keep that date as far back as possible to avoid any confusion in the Portfolio Manager system. Once all of this information has been filled out, select Add Property at the bottom of the page. At this point, you've successfully added a property to your Portfolio Manager account. If your property includes multiple use types, you can add them to your property by going to the Details tab. If you do not have more than one property use type, you may skip this step. To add a use type, select the property type from the Add Another Type of Use dropdown, then click Add. Complete the use details as previously described, then click Save Use. Repeat this process for each use type present at your property. When finished, the total gross floor area shown at the bottom of the Property Uses and Use Details table should match the gross floor area listed in the Basic Information section. If they don't match, review and adjust your entries. Whenever you need to make updates to property use type details, find the drop-down menu under Action in your Details tab for the specific use type that says, I want to, then select Edit Use Details. Here, you can make any updates, then select Save, and you're all set. Using the Add a New Row is a bit more involved and typically increases the risk of making further mistakes that will create errors in your report submission. That concludes my tutorial on how to add a property in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Thanks for watching.